and looking forward to getting stuck in today and looking about betting system and why it's so hard to profit from them. I was trying to set up today, while we were just waiting for some people to join us, I was trying to set up today on this Facebook Live software, a mic and a separate camera to kind of make things a little bit nice, a little bit easier to view. Turns out to be pretty difficult. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to have another try next time, see next week, see if I can get a different camera set up and maybe the mic to make it sound a bit better. But for now, we're back to the usual setup. So I hope you've got a cup of tea handy. Looking forward to what we're going to be talking about tonight. As I say, we're going to be looking at betting systems and why it's so hard to profit from them. When you get here, please do say hello. Type a message in below, at the comment box below. Give me a thumbs up or wave, a smiley face. Let me know that you are all here. Just refreshing my pages here. Looking forward to what we're going to be sharing today. So it's going to be about betting systems. It's going to be why it's so hard to profit from them. So if you have built betting systems before, if you tried to build betting systems, if you have looked into building betting systems before, then you will know that it can be really difficult to get them to make a profit. And that's what I want to look at today. I want to look at why it can be so difficult to get your betting systems to make a profit. As always, hey Carl, great to have you here again. Thank you for joining. As always, these Facebook Lives, they're kind of informal, so please do drop a message, leave a comment, have a smiley face. I think finally I managed to get my internet sorted, so I think our speed is now a little bit better than it has been for the last couple of events, so hopefully we won't get any of the slightly crackly, or in the worst case like we had once, the whole feed went down. But hopefully we won't get any of that today. I think I've managed to get that fixed and sorted. So all you need is a cup of If you've got any questions, drop them in as you think of them. I'll come back at the end to answer all the questions. Otherwise, you know that I'll be answering questions, lose my profit from them. Okay, I'm going to get started in a couple of minutes. Just wait for the last few people to join us, and anyone else can come and kind of filter in as we are going. So if you've been building betting systems, or if you have been using them, or if you struggle to make a profit from them, just leave me a comment now. Let me know how long you tried to get a profitable betting system for, how many failed betting systems you've built, with betting systems that haven't worked, that haven't made a profit. What frustrated you the most? Why? What was it that got you angry about building them? Let me know. Let me know now. Please leave a comment. Let me know. I'm going to come to all those points that you give me on that as well. So please do drop a message below and just let me know about that. Pardon me. So I want to answer questions about building betting systems and why you may find it hard, as well as to explain why it's so hard to profit from them. And we're going to be going through, I've got my notes down here, so if I'm glancing to the side sometimes, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my notes. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at why it's so hard to profit from betting systems, how we can make it easier, how, if you like betting systems, you can actually use them to be profitable in a much quicker way than maybe what you're currently trying, and then a totally different method that will allow you to use your betting systems to make a profit much, much faster than what you are currently doing. So we're going to get started and crack on. As I say, please do use the thumbs up down below, thumbs up, smiley face, hearts, whatever. That lets me know that you're enjoying it, lets Facebook know that you're enjoying it, and lets other people know that you're enjoying it. Please do ask any questions as I go along. I'm going to come back and answer questions at the end. So as I'm going along, please do ask questions. I will then come back and answer them at the end. Okay, so why is it so hard to build betting systems that you can make a profit with? So this is a good question. And The primary reason that it's difficult to build betting systems, and you're going to be surprised at how quick and how simple this initial answer is, and then I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it once I've answered it. But the primary reason that most people find it hard to make a profit building betting systems is because we're trying to build them on standard information or standard data, and that's information and data that is generally available to the betting public. When you use information that is generally available to the betting public, it's very, very, very hard to make a profit from it. And the reason for that is quite logical. It's quite simple. The reason for that is because when the bookmakers compile their odds, they are taking into account the information that's in the public domain. And they're also maybe taking into account some other information as well. But they are definitely going to be taking into account information that's in the public domain. Because a bookmaker doesn't want to know that this horse is going to win 20% of the time or 15% of the time. And guys, thank you for messaging. Please do leave messages, leave me comments, leave me questions. Let me know what you struggle with. If you've used betting systems, how you found them, how you struggled with them, whether you made a profit from them or not. So please do leave messages. I'm going to come back to them all. I will come back to them all at the end. So please leave those messages. I'm going to come back to them all in detail. So yeah, a bookmaker's job is not to try and predict which horse is most likely to win. A bookmaker's job is to try and predict which horses the general public are going to want to bet on the most. And there's a key difference there because they want to make a profit. Their job is to make a profit on every race. And the way they do that is by predicting how we, as the betting public, are going to bet, because then they can make sure that the odds are just a little bit too low on the horses that we're going to want to bet on. So they are going to make a long-term profit on that, a guaranteed profit. And so their job is to make this book, not to predict actually the chance of a horse winning. However, because the way markets work and the way predictions work is that the more people who are betting on an event, the more accurate that prediction, the odds are predicting the winner. So the favorite in a race is going to be the strongest horse in the race most of the time. And that's how kind of markets work. But so by definition, the bookmakers are finding the strongest horses in the race and giving them the lowest odds. But that is not actually their aim. Their aim is to predict how we bet. Now, Betfair, betting exchanges on the other hand, work differently because betting exchanges are just putting two people together who want to place that bet. And that is a totally free market. And so that obviously predicts very accurately which horses are likely to be the strongest in the race, because no one's sitting there making the odds. No one's trying to make a book in the same way that you are with a bookmaker. So I hope that makes sense, because that's a good base level to go forwards here to understand why it's so hard to profit from betting systems. So now betting systems, I think we just need to clarify exactly what a betting system is, because different people may have different ideas. Now, a betting system to me is a systematic process of finding selections. There is no human intervention. There is no opinion. There is purely rules based. And usually these rules are and, if, or. So if the horse has raced in the last 90 days and it is the top weighted, or it is the second top weighted and the favorite in the race, it becomes a selection. So that's what I mean by rules-based systems and betting systems. So to me, a betting system is a systematic process of finding selections that doesn't allow any form of opinion at all in it. If everybody was to use these rules, everybody would find the exact same selections. And that's different to a betting strategy where we've got base rules to potentially find the strongest horses in the race, and then we use an opinion, we look at the horses in a bit more detail or whatever, and I'm going to come to that in a little bit. But so when we talk about betting systems, we're talking about 100% systematic processes. Okay, I hope that makes sense to everybody. Let me know if that makes sense to you by just leaving me a comment below. Now, when we build these betting systems, we use standard information. You might take into account class, prize money, whether the horse is the favorite, the odds, the weight it's carried, the distance, the ground condition, the course, the race type. all these pieces of information. Thank you for the question, Nick. Great question. I'm going to come back to it at the end. Any more questions, please do drop them in. Great question. So all these things, pieces of information, how much weight is the horse carrying? What draw is it coming from? Did it win its last race? How long since it last raced? All of these pieces of information, these are what I'm calling standard information. You can get them in any newspaper. You don't even need a specialist racing paper. You can get them in any newspaper, any day of the week. And obviously, if you go into the bookmakers, they're pinned on the walls. The Racing Post is pinned on the walls. You've got it all there. You can get it on websites. This information is in the public domain for everybody to access. And if everybody can access it, because the bookmakers are trying to predict who we, as the betting public, are going to bet on, because they're trying to do that, they are obviously going to go to the information that we, as the general betting public, have access to. And they're going to use that information to create their odds lines, which is why it's going to be very difficult to beat them using standard information. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, leave me a question, but I hope that makes sense as to why that it is so hard to profit from betting systems. And that's where I want to begin today. And I'm going to move on from here now. Because when we build betting systems, we have a couple of options. Okay, so the way most of us start building betting systems is we start pretty broad. So we start by considering kind of everything, really. You know, let's look at Kempton races, 7 furlongs and under. I'm sure this sounds familiar. Let me know if this sounds familiar. I'm going to look at Kempton races, 7 furlongs and under. And in those races, sorry, train of thought there. In those races, I'm going to be looking at the favourites. Okay, that's our starting point. Kempton races, 7 furlongs and under, favourite. Right, that's pretty generic. I mean, there's a lot of information going on there. We've still got loads of information about the horses, and we're going to have thousands of horses racing under those conditions. And we need to try and find an edge against the bookmaker. And then you're going to put things in like, well, okay, we've got the favourite, so that's excellent. We know the horse that we're going to be focusing on. Makes sense. Now let's try and figure out how it's profitable. And the chances are, if you're doing this, you're using some kind of betting system builder that's going to kick out the profit and loss and the return on investment and the strike rate and all this information. Ideally, the AE ratio or the impact value as well, and all this information. And you're going to see that it makes a loss. And then you're going to try and refine it a bit further. And then you're going to end up with maybe favourites who are carrying more than a certain amount of weight, who raced in a certain amount of days, in fields that have less than 10 runners. So I hope all this is kind of making sense, and it's possibly something you've already done. And I'm going to go through all these rules, and then you press the button to get the result, and it still makes a loss. Yeah. So you keep refining these rules further, because you can see that it made a loss, and you can see in this software that builds your betting systems, you can see that actually, most of the loss is coming from the fact that we're focusing on the horses that race in the last 90 days. So let's look into that a bit further. And well, if we look at horses that race in the last 7 days, then we make a little bit more profit, and we narrow down like this, don't we? We just kind of build in and build in and build in. And what we do is we find selections that suit historic data, or we backfit. Essentially, we are finding a profit in historic races by finding tiny angles that are never going to make us a profit going forwards, because the only reason that it made a profit historically is just luck. It's just chance. And we've just looked at this data and we've made it smaller and smaller and shrunk it down and down and down until the point where there is actually nothing except a profit, because we've removed everything that historically made a loss from that piece of data. So all that's left is to make a profit, but there's no way that's going to work going forwards. So that's probably what you've done. So And that is the standard path. I mean, that is, you're not alone. That is how most people build betting systems. And that is most of the reason why it's so hard for people to profit from them. And even if you think you're going to make a profit, you start betting on it live and it just does like this, because we've backfitted it to such a degree, it doesn't work. So again, if you're building betting systems, you've got to have enough horses, and the logic has to be there. However, one of the ways that we can make a profit, and this is kind of where I wanted to get to today, and I'm going to move on from this point in a minute, but one of the ways you can make a profit is by finding these tiny angles. Now I'm going to give you two tricks to this, and two tricks that hopefully will stop it from backfitting. And thanks, Martin, for the question. I will come to that as well. Thank you very much indeed. Any more questions, please do fire them away. Drop them in the chat. I will in the comments, and I will come back and answer them at the end. So the way that you can build a betting system without backfitting and making it comparatively easy to profit, you've got two options. The first is to build it on data that's not generally available to the betting public. That's the first option. The second option is we use this backfitting process that we just talked about, where we drill down and down and down, and we end up with these tiny angles. And let's call these angles micro angles. So each year there may be just 20 or 30 selections in your micro angle. In one micro angle, there might just be 20 or 30 selections a year. So maybe 2 a month. Very, very few. And these selections show historically to have made a profit, and usually they made a huge profit. Okay, there's not very many of them, but they've made, I don't know, let's say they've made 150% return on investment, like a massive profit. We now know that actually we probably backfitted these, okay, but that doesn't mean to say there isn't a grain of truth in the reason that there's a profit there. So what we do is we create these micro angles, and we create a lot of them. And I mean a lot. I mean, if we're only talking about 2 selections a month and you want 4 selections a day, we can work that backwards. So if each micro angle, on average, for argument's sake, has 2 selections a month, then you want an average of 4 selections a day, and probably going to need more like 6 or 8, but let's go with 4 selections a day. And you've got 2 a month. So we've got, for 4 a day, we're going to need 120 selections a month, and we get 2 from a single micro angle. So that means we're going to need 10 micro angles to give us 20, 50. So we're going to need 60 micro angles to give us 4 selections a day. 60. Okay. And obviously those micro angles also need to be spread. They've got to be spread across different types of racing. Otherwise, if you're focusing on one type, you'll get to a point of the year where you're not going to get any selections for a period of time, because none of your micro angles are based on it. So we're talking about these tiny segments, and where effectively we're backfitting, we're drilling down. We've got our base data, Kempton, 6 furlongs or less, 7 furlongs or less, class 1 horses who've run in the last 90 days, the favorite who's carrying more next weight, and we drill down and we drill down and we drill down, and we end up with this micro angle that, if you go and bet on these live as they are, they're going to lose you money because we backfitted them in. So we can use these. If you have enough of them, you can use them to build a portfolio of micro angles. And what you do is you don't just blindly back these selections. You use them as contenders. Okay, we use them as contenders, and then we look to see if that horse is actually likely to be able to win the race. And we can do that using a very, very simple method that I'm going to show you shortly. And so every day you've got 4 selections from your 60 micro angles, and you can find, obviously, these micro angles, whatever system you're using, whatever software you're using, they're going to churn them out automatically. So you're going to get these selections automatically. So you don't have to monitor them. You don't have to go through the manual process every day of finding 6 selections. You're just being sent an email, or you're logging in, you're getting an email of 60 of them. And every day you're going to get well, out of your 60 selections, here are the 4 for today. Obviously, it's not going to be 4 every day. It's going to be random, but there's going to be a few. Hey, Royston, thank you for joining us. Love to have you here. Any questions? Leave them in the comment below. I'm going to come to all the questions at the end. I'm going to go through them all. And if you've missed some of this, there will be a recording where you can catch up with what we've seen at the end. So you got your 60 micro angles here, and every day you get sent your 4 selections, and you say, okay, so these are the 4 horses that we found from our micro angles today. Now, all we need to do is look into these 4 horses, and we need to use a method to see whether those horses actually have a strong chance of winning the race. And as I say, I'm going to show you an example of one way that you can do that without having to know form or know inside form, inside out, or to practice it too much. It will take a little bit of practice, but not huge amounts. Yeah. So that's how we can use micro angles. As I said, the other option for building betting systems is to use information that's not available to the general public. Use ratings that most people can't get. Use information that the majority of bettors are not going to have, and find the edge that way on your betting systems. And you can do that. And as an example, last week I published an article on one of our ratings, a PFP rating, and we just looked at a couple of angles in there where it was already profitable kind of on its own. And I wasn't recommending you went away, you just bet on those horses. I was recommending you use that as a starting point and build up from there. That becomes your foundations, and you build up. And in the same way these micro angles are, it's easy to find a profit backfitting betting systems. It's hard to find a profit betting on them live. So in terms of being able to use that, we can backfit to a degree. We can get these micro angles where we've got 15, 30 selections a year from each angle, and we use that as our foundation. We use that as our foundation. When a selection is thrown up, we then go and use another method to determine whether it's actually something we're going to want to bet on or not. So far, in summary, where we've got to is betting systems very, very hard to profit from, because we are competing against the bookmakers. The bookmakers, when they make their odds lines, are only interested in predicting how we, as the general betting public, bet, because then they can get their edge there. Once they've got their odds and they've decided how we're going to bet, the information that they're going to use to decide that is obviously the information that's generally available to us as bettors, to the majority of the betting public. So if you're building a betting system using information that is generally available, and I'm talking about course, race time, class, weights, days since last round, last 6 form positions, comparative weight to other runners in the race. And when I talk about betting systems, I'm talking about systematic rules that have no room for opinions, where everybody will find the exact same selection every single time. Then obviously we're using information that's generally available. We're using information that the bookmakers have already used to calculate their odds. So they've taken it into account already. And that's why it's so hard to profit from them. And in fact, the irony is that most of us as bettors, and me too, when I first started getting into horse racing, I wanted a systematic process. I wanted to build a betting system that worked. And we do that because maybe we haven't got time on the day of racing to have a look at things, or maybe we've got an idea of this dream of being able to build this betting system that works, and we get the selections and we make profit, and great, and we only spend a few minutes each day. The truth is, it's far easier to learn to form read and make a profit from that than it is to build a betting system, a statistical, effectively betting system, and make a profit from it. It's far, far harder to build an entirely systematic process that is profitable than it is to learn to read form. You can learn to read form much faster and become profitable much faster doing that. Yet most of us want this systematic process, this ideal of pressing a button, getting selections, and making a profit. However, we will spend 10, 15 times longer trying to get to that point systematically than we will if we actually just sat down and used the computer in your head to give you an opinion on horses and learn how to do that. But you can build profitable betting systems. And one of the ways is to use data that is not generally available to the public, ratings that the majority of bettors don't have access to. There are also ways of building betting systems, but I would look at that in another Facebook Live or in a webinar event at some point in the future. And there are ways of building betting systems that actually, generally speaking, commercial software that I know of doesn't do, that make it far easier to make a profit from betting systems in that way. But we can look at that in another event. The other option you can do is you can drill down and drill down and drill down, like most of us do. We drill down, we take a section of races, race conditions, and then we drill into it, and then we look at a couple of horses and we drill into those horses, like the favorites, the second favorites, the top 4 weighted, the top 5 in the race, whatever that may be. We drill into them, further. Maybe we look at odds, days since last round, recent form positions, all this standard information. Even speed ratings. If you're using top speed from the Racing Post, everybody uses top speed from the Racing Post. All the bettors do. So, do you think the bookies are going to take that into account? Of course, they're going to take that into account. They know that. In the same way, they're going to take into account what the tipsters on the Racing Post say. They know that the majority of people are going to use this. Hey, Chris, welcome to the Facebook Live. Good to have you here. Again, any questions as I'm talking, please leave a comment below. I'm going to come back to all the questions at the end, so please do leave that comment below. So what we do is we drill down and we drill down and we drill down into these horses, and then we find something that looks profitable. But the reason it's profitable is because we're looking at historic races. And by drilling down and removing the elements that aren't profitable, we've literally removed all of the non-profitable parts from the group of historic races we're looking at. So all that's left to us is a profit. But that's not going to make a profit in the future because we can't remove all the unprofitable elements in the future because we don't know what they're going to be. But that's why if you keep drilling down into betting system builders, you end up with something that makes a profit and you go out and bet on it and it doesn't make you a profit. It's back-fitted. We've fitted it to the data we have available. However, we can take these back-fitted angles, let's say. Now, the logic in these angles still has to be sound. I mean, if it's horses that run on Tuesday afternoon between 3 and 4 o'clock on, stall 5 or whatever, that's never going to work. But if there is some logic to it, particularly in these micro angles, if you're using jockey and trainer information, trainer preferences on race conditions, horse types, jockey preferences on tracks, horses, things like that. So if there is a logic to it, and this works particularly well if you are using trainers and jockeys as one of the main factors in your angle. You find these tiny, you drill down, in all this back fitting, you end up with these tiny micro angles that may find 15, 20, 30, possibly 40 selections a year. So we're talking, 1, 2, 3 selections a month kind of volume. And you take these and you save them and you build a portfolio of them. And you're going to need, if you want 4 selections a day, you're going to need 50, 60 of these micro angles. And you're going to have to keep building them. This isn't a process that ever stops. You got to keep adding to them because some will stop working. You got to move them off. And some new ones need to come in, so you got to keep adding to them in the micro angles. And when you've got that, you end up with a short list of 3 or 4 selections every day. These are your contender list, and then using a very simple process that I'm going to share with you in just a second, you can take that contender list and decide which of those horses you're actually going to bet on. And obviously, if you want to learn to reform, you want to learn to be a long-term profitable bettor, that is the best thing to do. To learn that skill. However, I'm going to show you a way that you can do this, even if you've not done it before, even if you're not used to reading form. It's a simple process. It's a great starting point. You can obviously build on it from there and go up, but it's a great starting point to then take these contenders and decide whether you want to bet on them. And the other thing is, you're also going to be able to use this on its own without the micro angles. You can actually score a race like this. So you can either score an entire race with what I'm about to show you, or you can score just those strongest contenders that you found. Okay, so I'm going to jump over in a second into our software so we can have a look at a couple of races. And I'm going to show you how we can do this. Again, thank you for joining me. If you just jumped on, please do, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit the thumbs up button below, the smiley face. It lets me know that you're enjoying it. It lets Facebook know that you're enjoying it. It lets other people know that you're enjoying it. If you've got any questions, please do leave me a comment below. I'm going to come back to all questions. I do that because I like to talk, and I can quite easily get stuck into answering questions and not make it through all of what I want to share with you during this Facebook Live. So any questions, leave them below. If you struggle with betting systems, please do let me know. If you tried to build lots of betting systems and they've not quite worked for you, let me know. If you've built some betting systems and they rocketed and you've made, hundreds of thousands from them, or just hundreds, let me know. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. Whether you build betting systems, yes or no, whether you profit from them, yes or no, whether you get frustrated by the fact that you can't profit from them, yes or no. Drop me a comment, please, and do let me know that. Okay, so I'm going to bring in our software here, and let me just get myself all sorted out here. Okay, so and I'm going to do this. You'll probably see the members area has changed a little bit here. And if you are an RA Pro member, jump into your software if you can. While you're watching this, you can kind of following along as well. Thanks for the question, Jason. I will come back to that at the end as well. I'm going to go through all those questions at the end. Thank you. Any more, just drop them in and I'm going to come back to them. So, pardon me. The members area has changed a bit here. If you're an RA Pro member, jump in. If you're an RA Pro member, you are going to know why it's changed, and you're going to hopefully be joining me on our live training tomorrow night. If you're not an RA Pro member, keep an eye on your inbox, because I've got something. We're releasing something to our entire community this week. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I am so excited about it. We've been working super hard on it. Nothing like this exists that I'm aware of anywhere in the world. It is going to be, as far as I'm aware, a world first, and I'm super excited. So keep an eye on your emails as well, and it's going to be released to something's going to be released to the entire community this Thursday. Now, so what I'm going to do here, though, right now, is I am going to go through a race. I'm going to use Aldermist because Aldermist is our virtual racetrack on the Race Advisor that we recently released, and it behaves exactly like a real race. We use real data, 100% real data, and again, nothing like this exists. So if you've got any questions on it, please do let me know, because nothing like this exists. Every race at Aldermist is based 100% on real data, 100% real horses. The results, there is form, you'll see form, ratings, everything as a normal race card has is in there. And the results are based on each horse's true chance of winning the race. So in effect, it behaves exactly like a real race, which makes it the perfect platform to develop strategies, to build systems, and to test things in a like real scenario without actually risking any of your own money. And on average, we're expecting to see people become profitable bettors 344% faster using Aldermist before they move their strategies, their form reading, their processes onto live racing, because there's a race every 10 minutes. You can make mistakes without worrying or the fear of losing money by making those mistakes. And you can rectify those mistakes really fast. So you can iterate through your learning process with us really, really quickly. It is the ultimate long-term profitable bettors training platform. If you want to be long-term profitable as a bettor, Aldermist is the ultimate way to test it. And obviously at the moment it has the benefit that there is a race every 10 minutes, a virtual race every 10 minutes that behaves like a real race. So I'm just going to use this as an example, and I'm going to look at that. Thank you for the questions that are coming in. That's excellent. Any more questions, please do drop them below. I will, as I say, I will go through all the questions shortly, and I'm just going to show you now a way that we can, if we've got the strongest horses, we can then rank the strength of those horses in the race to see whether they're likely to perform, even if you're not experienced as a form reader. And then we can use that as a base level foundation, shall we say, and you can adapt and build it from there. And obviously, as part of the Race Advisor community, we're here to support you with that. I'm here to support you personally with that as well. So I'm just going to open a race at Aldermas. Let me find a race that's not going to run shortly. Handicap standard. I'm going to use this one here. Hurdle novice, 8 runners. Good soft ground, class 4, 2 mile 1 furlong. Okay, so we've opened this race. It's a novice race. Actually, do you know what? A novice race is probably not my my finest decision ever, because obviously there's going to be limited history in novice race. Here we go. Here's a good race. A handicap, 8 runners, all weather it will be because the going is standard. So these horses have got some history. So this is one of the races at Aldermas, our virtual race course. And you can see here we've got all the ratings as normal. Now I'm going to ignore the ratings because I'm going to assume that we've already got our strongest horses. And whether those strongest horses have come from the micro angles like I was talking about, whether they come from one of our own strategies, which is my preference. Generally, I find that they are stronger than micro angles, and I'll come back to that later on and the reasons why in a little bit. And actually, I believe someone has already asked a question about that as well. Back here, Nick actually asked a question that relates to why the strategies that we provide within RA Pro are better than a micro angle or a betting system to start as your foundation. But it doesn't matter where the strongest horses in the race come from. As I said, you can also use this process, in fact, to score horses. Even if you've not got the strongest horses, you can just score horses in a race just with this. And that on its own can be incredibly powerful to finding winners in the race. So the key takeaway initially is we want to think of the race type here, flat all weather. Again, we're looking at this standard information that everyone's got. It's a class 5 race, flat all weather. The going is standard. Distance here, 1 mile, 4 furlongs, 8 runners. And that's all great there. Now, I'm not going to use any of the ratings that you can see here because that's not what this is about. Instead, I'm going to open a horse's form. Hang on. Let me just open this up here. Now, hold on, I need to share that with you so you can see it. Okay, there we go. So now you should be able to see that horse's form. I know I am covering a bit of it. Unfortunately, I can't shrink this window any more than this, but let me just see if I can scroll up a bit. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit easier for you to see. There we go. Let's see if this makes a difference. There we go. Look at that. That's a bit better. Right. Okay. So we've got Magical Thomas's form here. So now this race was all weather, class 5, 1 mile, 4 furlongs with around 3 grand prize money. Okay. And now we're looking at this. So what we want to do is grab a piece of paper, and you know what, I'm going to do it right now while we talk. So you can see me doing it. Hang on, let me just grab a piece of paper here. Literally, I've got a little sticky pad, piece of square note paper, and a pen. And we're going to do this using nothing else. Okay. So we're looking at here. We're looking at flat all weather, class 5, standard distance. So generally speaking, we're interested most in the going, the class, and the prize money. Those 3 elements are the ones that we're going to be focusing on. You can add others in if you want to, and I'll give an example when we've done those 3 of one more that you may want to consider. But we're keeping this simple, okay? And now all you want to do is you've got your horse's history here, and the first thing is we want to focus on the race type. So we're generally going to only be looking for all-weather racing, and we can see here that this horse only has 2 all-weather races just there, and we're going to see how has this horse performed. So our race is 1 mile, 4 furlongs, so we can see here we want to ask ourselves, were these races similar for whatever condition we're looking at? So let's start with the ground, the going. Standard. So yes, both of these races were similar. It won one race by half a length, and it was beaten by 5 lengths in the other. So we just give this horse, I'm just going to write down its name on my piece of paper here, Magical Thomas. In fact, usually I would do this with the cloth number, so number 1. Just put that there, so it makes it a bit quicker and takes up less space. So effectively, this horse gets a tick for being competitive in one race. Under going, I make a little note of going, and I just give it a tick and a cross. So it was competitive in one race, and it wasn't competitive in another race. That's it. It is that simple. Okay. Now I'm going to look down similar prize money. Okay, we've got 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. So I'm looking at all of them now, not taking into account the race time. I'm just looking at prize money. Was it competitive in similar prizes? All the races except for this one back on the 16th of June 2019, it was competitive in. Sorry, it had similar prize money. Was it competitive in? It was competitive in, obviously, the last one that we just looked at. No, not competitive there. And when I say competitive, generally speaking, I'm talking about 1.5 lengths to the winner. So just use that as a baseline, 1.5 lengths to the winner. If it's a really long race, you might want to increase that to 2 lengths, possibly 2.5 for longer races. But have in your mind the benchmark of 1.5 lengths between the winner. So it doesn't have to have come first, second, or third. It just needs to have been within 1.5 lengths of the winner. Use that as a baseline, but again, you can increase it a bit or even decrease it a bit for, like, 5 furlong, the odd 4 furlong race, whichever. So that's what we're doing here. We're just looking at this. So it was competitive in 1, and then not competitive in 1, 2, 3, 4. So under prize, I'm going to give it 1 tick and 4 crosses. Again, it is this simple. Honestly, it is this simple. Often we overcomplicate the process of finding selections and winners, and it isn't. Finding winners is not that hard. There is a different reason that most people actually lose at betting, and I'm going to cover that in a webinar later this week. Keep an eye out on your emails for that webinar, but I'm going to cover the reason that 99% of people lose on their betting in a webinar later this week. The actual process of finding selections and winners is not that difficult, and it can be done in so many ways. So we've done going there, and we've done prize money. Now we're going to do distance, 1 mile 4 furlong, and we go a little bit around that. So let's take, say, 1 mile 3 furlongs to 1 mile 5 furlongs roughly, and that only really gives us 1 race, and we're being competitive in that race. Okay, so distance, 1 tick, and I'm doing it as I say. You can see me writing it down here. Okay. Now those are the 3 things that we definitely want to do. All right. Now, you may want to throw in recent form, day since last good race, a couple of other factors, but keep it very few. Maybe 1 more or possibly 2 more. That is it. We could also look at class. That's another one. I'll put class in here. For the sake of this, I'm just going to use standard information. So this is a class 3 race. Sorry, no, this is a class 5 race. And we can see that there are 4 class 5s. The first 3 are class 5s, and we know already that there's only the first one that this horse was competitive for, so I'm going to give it a tick for that. And then the other 3, which is this 2nd of March, 10th of February, and then down here, 25th of May last year, it wasn't competitive at any of those 3, so we get 1 tick and 3 crosses. Okay, and that's it. And we end up with a little piece of sheet, a little sheet like this, and you can see here, it probably doesn't make a huge, my writing is pretty bad, but you can see here that it's literally that simple. And then we're going to add it up. So at the bottom, I've got 4 ticks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crosses. Okay, 4 ticks and 8 crosses. Again, like that. Just 4 ticks, 8 crosses. Now, personally, I like to work it out as a percentage because that's how my brain works. So I then do that as 50%. So this horse has got 50% strength based on that information in this race. 50% strength. Okay, that's simple. Okay, but now we still don't know. So whether we've taken this horse, it's from one of the micro angles we've been talking about, and we've now come in and we've graded this horse. We're like, great. Okay, this horse is 50% strength. Do we want to bet it? We still don't know whether that's going to be good for us or not. Okay, so we come back to our race over here. We come back to our race, and we search by odds. So let's just order the horses in odds for this race. And I can see some questions coming in. That's great. I'm going to come back to those questions. Thank you, guys. If you've got any questions, do please leave me a comment below. I'm going to come back to them all in a moment. Once I've finished this, I'm going to show you, I'm going to say why I believe strategies are actually better than betting systems, and the reason for that, and then I'm going to come through and answer all the questions. So please, if you've got any questions, do drop them below. If you've missed any of it, there will be a replay of this at the end on Facebook, so you can watch it again. And if you're enjoying, please let me know by leaving a smiley face or a thumbs up or a heart. Lets me know, lets Facebook know, lets everybody know that you're enjoying what we're doing here. So what we do now is we order the race card by odds. So we've got the favorite at the top here, Sea of Heaven, second favorite, Night Music, third favorite, Avenue de Chambre. And we're looking for the three favorites. Now, assuming if our horse, which is actually Magical Thomas, if our horse was to be one of those top three, that's great. We're only interested in the other two. If it's not one of those top three, we are interested in all the top three in the market. Okay. Now, we're going to repeat exactly the same process on this top three. So let's just drop back over here for Sea of Heaven. Here we go. Let me find Sea of Heaven. Here we go. We open Sea of Heaven's form, much shorter. And again, we repeat the same process. So Sea of Heaven is horse number 5. Okay, so I'm going to do it by number this time. And we've got Going. And we can see here, it's standard going. There's 2 races. And this horse has an X for both of them because it came 18 lengths behind the winner there, 9 lengths behind the winner here. So that's not great. Then we're going to do Prize. I'm making note. You can see I'm adding to my notes as I do this. Prize money, 3,000. We've got the 2 last races here. The 8th of October 2014. This horse has not raced for a time. And the 20th of September 2014. And again, 2 X's there. In fact, I can tell you straight away that there is going to be crosses for all of them. We're going to continue doing this, but we can see that because in each of its races, this horse has performed really, really badly. Okay. Now, prize money. What else have we got? We've got distance. 1 mile 4 furlongs. So we're looking, either side. There is nothing here. So when you have nothing that meets the criteria, we take distance out. It is no longer a consideration for that horse. It's just removed. That factor is removed entirely, which just leaves us with class. This is a class 5 race. Again, there's 2 here, and that's 2 X's. So we have 6 X's there and 0 wins. And so for me, as a gets 0%. And let me have a look and see if you can see that. That horse gets 0% there at the bottom because it's got 6 X's, 0 ticks. 0% for that horse. There are 0 ticks. Okay. Now I'm going to repeat this. I'm just going to turn my piece of paper over. Let's jump onto the last 2 horses. We've got number 4, Night Music, who was 2nd in the market. Number 4. And we've got Going, Prize, Distance, and Class. I'm just going to write them all down. Going, Prize, Distance, Class. Okay. Draw my line. You should be able to see behind me this horse's details here. Going, Prize, Distance, and Class. So on the Going, we've got lots of Going here. And we have a quick scan up, and none of these have been within 1.5 lengths of the winner. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Yep. 5 X's. So I'm going to just put my 5 X's on my page. Prize money, 3,000, all of them except the last one. And again, we know already that's going to be 5 more X's. Distance, we've got 3 that come within the range. And again, oh, sorry, I got that wrong. This horse won. This horse won on the 26th of May, 2015. This horse won this race here. So I do apologize. I'm going to go back to Going. So we actually have 1 tick and 4 X's. And again, on the next one, prize money, we have 1 tick and 4 X's. On the distance, we now have 1 tick and 2 X's because there are 3 races here, 1, 2, 3, that are within that range of kind of 1 mile 3 furlongs to 1 mile 5 furlongs. And on class, again, all class 5 except for the last one. And we already know that's the same as the other. That's 1 tick and 5 X's. And again, I'm going to summarize that up. I've got 4 ticks and I have 4, 8, 12, 14 X's. which equals, I'm not going to be able to do that in my head, so let me just grab a calculator. 4 divided by 14, 29%. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to do it for the last horse. I hope this is making sense, guys. If it's not making sense, please drop me a comment, leave me a question, let me know, and I will answer those shortly. Okay. The last horse that we've got here is Avenue de Champs, number 7. Let me open up that horse, and we're going to repeat the same process. And you can see, even talking through this is really fast. It's really quick. It's really simple. So we're going for going standard. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 standard races in this history here. Beaten 2.5 lengths. Beaten, 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 beaten. So not a single one on standard going performed well out of those 6. So we've got 6 crosses. We come into prize money, 3,000. Up the top here, we've got the first 2, 3,000, very similar. 2 wins. So I'm going to give my 2 ticks straight away. Let's keep coming down here, and we come to the bottom. We've got another 3 down here, and that's all of them were beaten badly. So we've got 2 wins and 2 ticks, 3 X's. Coming on to distance, so we're talking about roughly 1 mile, 3 furlongs, 1 mile, 5 furlongs, and that gives us pretty much the top 4 races here. And we can see the first 2 are ticks, the second 2 is beaten by fair distance, are X's. So we've got 2 ticks, 2 X's. Finally, class 5. Let's jump down here, and we've got 4 class 5s at the bottom, all of which were beaten by some length. So I'm putting 4 X's there. Now I'm just going to add that up. I've got 4 ticks, and I've got 6, 9, 10, 15 X's, which leaves us all over 15. So we're about 26%. There we go, roughly. Okay. Pardon me. So here we go. You should be able to see that there. That is the second page. That's it. That's it. I've done that race. Here we go. And what this has shown us is that our selection had 50% in that small process. And from the top 3, we had a 0%, a 29%, and a 26%, which puts our horse as quite a strong contender in this race, and probably one that we're going to want to bet on. Using that information as well, we can also make a decision on the size stake we want, the type of bet we want, and we can consider the odds. If we come back over to the race, we can consider the odds on our horse here, Magical Thomas, down here, number 6. Let me just highlight Magical Thomas so you can see it. There we go, number 6. The odds on that horse are currently odds of 6. So again, we can use this information to determine whether we think those odds are fair value or not fair value, and how much risk we want as well. Okay, so nice simple process there, and you can use this, as I say, either with your micro wrangles and you've got those contenders that are coming to you. You can then use this and go through it, or you can do it an entire race and actually score it like that as well. Okay, so now the reason, I hope that makes sense. Any questions on that process, please just drop a comment below, let me know, and I will come to them in just a couple of minutes. Before I come to them, I would just like to go through why I think betting strategies are better than betting systems. Now, the reason a betting strategy, in my opinion, is better than a betting system is because it requires some human logic. It requires some human thinking, and that makes all the difference. And in fact, when you apply some human thinking into the process, we accelerate our journey to long-term profitable betting, because it is far easier to become a profitable bettor using a bit of our own thinking than it is to have something that's purely 100% systematical, step by step. There is a reason that statistical betting and betting teams often employ statisticians, race readers to convert. Most betting teams will employ people to watch the races, to put information that they're seeing into a number. How has the horse run today? And that's put into a number by a human, because it is information that only a human can analyze and interpret. And okay, we haven't got the resources individually to send people to every racetrack to watch the horses, to score them. But this is what betting teams do. They send people to the racetracks to watch the horses, to create a score for them, so that their statistical systems, their systematic processes can then rank those horses in the future. But they start, or they include, human thinking and thought processes into that step-by-step process. And it is very, very, very difficult to make a profit without that. Not impossible, but it's hard. And it is much, much easier to use the human brain, which is why I think a strategy is a better point, because a strategy gives you a base structure to find your selections. It gives you a foundation of a process that you go through to find your selections. And then we adapt that strategy to suit your personal circumstances, your personal risk levels, your personal preferences, your personal bet types, your personal time availability and bankroll. But that strategy is solid. That strategy works. And the reason most people don't want to do it is because it takes a little bit longer. But that's a myth, you see. It takes a little bit longer because you've got to learn it. You've got to practice the strategy, and then you've got to adapt it. But if you've ever tried building a betting system, how many hours have you spent trying to make that betting system profitable? How many hours have you spent digging into that data? How many hours have you then spent testing it live only to find that it fails? And if you add up all of those hours and you put them together, actually starting with a betting strategy is going to be quicker. Yes, you've got to learn it. It's a different way of learning, but it's going to be faster long term. However, you can use your micro angles like we discussed, and you can build betting systems. In a future, either in a webinar or Facebook Live, I'm going to show a way of building betting systems that is different to the way 99% of people build them, that can make that process a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot easier to find a profit. However, with this drilling down where you end up with these backfitted micro angles, we can use these micro angles, using them as strong contenders and following this process to then determine whether we want to bet on them or not. And again, the reason that that can work is because we are using our own form of analysis. We are making an opinion. We're using our own brains to help make an informed decision on it, rather than relying 100% on a step-by-step rule-based approach. Okay, so I hope that is all clear. If you've got any questions, drop them in. I'm going to go back through the questions now. We're going to spend a little bit of time just answering any questions that you've got, and then we will come to once I've answered all the questions, we will close down this webinar. So please do ask questions. Oh, sorry, should I say this Facebook Live event? If you are an RA Pro member, please don't forget that tomorrow we have a live training session on all the new features that we've just released inside the members area. They're awesome. It is like nothing that is out there. Using Aldermis Racecourse and the features that are now in the members area is the only, that I am aware of, it is the only real life training platform you can have to becoming a long-term profitable bettor. You can become a long-term profitable bettor with zero risk. I'm expecting it to be about 344% faster than trying to do it on live racing, and then you can move it when you're profitable. You can move it straight out into live racing. On Thursday, if you're not an RA Pro member, please keep an eye on your emails, because on Thursday we are going to be holding, or I'm going to be holding, a webinar. We're giving something very, very special to our entire community as a thank you for being so wonderful, for following us, for following the Race Advisor, and I am super excited about it. So keep an eye on your emails. I'm not going to say any more now. There will be a webinar on Thursday for all of our community, and there will be a link going out tomorrow where you can register for it, and you will have to register. It's free, but you're going to have to register to join. Okay, so let me go through these questions. If you've got any questions, please drop them in. I'm going to come through them now. If you've missed some of the content in this Facebook Live, don't worry. The Facebook Live is going to be available afterwards on Facebook. It's going to be recorded, and I will upload it to YouTube as well. So it will be available on YouTube if you prefer YouTube as a platform. I'm going to go through these questions now. Okay, so, and again, sorry, I should say one last thing. Do let me know if you like betting systems or why you prefer betting systems to maybe betting strategy. If you struggle with betting systems in the past, what's frustrated you the most? If you've used betting systems in the past to great success, please let me know that as well. I'd just love to hear your experience with them, what you like, what you don't like, and what you find really frustrating about trying to profit with them. Robert, 50 years so far. You probably know a huge amount about horse racing, which is excellent. It's a great place to be. Almost certainly, I would say that the reason that you are still in a negative is going to come down to strategy and discipline. That is the case for most people who have been looking at horse racing and betting on horse racing for a long time, but are still negative. It comes down to strategy and discipline. And again, actually, the webinars that I'm holding this week are going to be absolutely perfect for you, and I think they're going to answer, solve a lot of the things that you may be struggling with there. Carl, I'm a novice and still learning. Carl, it's great. Questions, please ask questions, whether you're a novice, whether you're experienced, whatever it is, please ask as many questions as you like. I advocate asking questions. It doesn't matter what that question is, because that's the only way we learn. I do it every day in horse racing. I ask questions to people, even to people who don't know horse racing. Like sometimes our developers who kind of know a bit about it, but not hugely. Like sometimes I'll ask them stuff, and they'll ask me a question like, "Why are you doing it like this?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a great question. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be doing it like that. Maybe I should think about it a bit differently." So always ask questions. By asking questions and by sharing is the way we progress and we move forward. So ask, try, iterate that process, and learn from it ongoing, and that's the quickest way. Nick, does an average betting system lose its edge over time? I wouldn't say there was such a thing as an average betting system. I would say, generally speaking, betting systems don't make a profit to start with. The majority of them, certainly the ones that are sold, the majority of them don't make a profit to start with, or if they did make a profit when they were developed, that profit is eroded almost the second that they go on sale, because generally the edge in a betting system is very small. I'm talking like 1, 2, 3%. So very, very small edges. So actually, if you suddenly got a lot of people buying a betting system and betting on the same horses, and again, this is a flaw in the systematic process where there is no human thinking involved, particularly where that system is shared. If you've got a small edge, as soon as a number of people start betting on it, that edge is gone. The odds drop, the market takes account of it, the edge has disappeared. If it's your own betting system that you've got a small edge on, that edge doesn't necessarily erode over time, no. It depends on the information in it and what's happening in the world of racing. Let's say, for example, you found a little angle, a particular set of conditions works really well as a micro angle, has worked really well, suddenly isn't working really well because that trainer has had a massive press release about how well he does under those conditions. Now that information is general, much more generally people are generally aware of it now. The odds will change on those horses. It's no longer going to be successful. So that's kind of how it works. But that's why I prefer strategies to systems where there is no human thinking, because a strategy, generally speaking, a strategy will not be eroded. If the strategy's methodology is solid, and you're adapting it, you're using it as your foundation, you're building up from there to build your long-term profitable approach. As long as that methodology is solid, that foundation is solid, that isn't going to change. That is a solid foundation to build upwards. You are not going to be, 1,000 people could be using the strategy. They'll all be using it slightly differently. They'll all develop it slightly differently. They'll all be betting on slightly different horses. Martin, why don't you give free tips to see how your system works best? Okay, thanks for the question, Martin. I don't give betting systems in that way for the reasons that I've just explained. They aren't step-by-step. We use strategies at the Race Advisor for all of those reasons above. I also don't give tips very often. I mean, I do occasionally. You can see them in the blog posts. I always email out if I'm doing a race preview, and you can always have a look at them, good and bad. You know, sometimes we get loads of winners and we make a great profit, and sometimes, you know, we don't get it quite right. Often, if I don't get the race analysis quite right, I will come back in the comments section and go through the results to see where maybe I missed on things that happened during the race. And sometimes we find that actually I did miss on things that happened during the race, and we possibly could have predicted it better or made a better bet. And sometimes we go back through the race and actually we can't see any way that we could have found that particular result. You know, it was just happened to be a losing race. There was nothing that would have told me that it was going to end that way. So that's generally why I don't do it. We don't tip on the race advisor because the only goal I have for the race advisor is to help you become a long-term profitable bettor. And over the last 12, 14 years or so of helping people to do that, I've found that actually giving tips is the fastest way to stop people becoming long-term profitable, because there is no understanding of what's behind that selection, why that selection was made. More importantly, there's no understanding of the losing streaks, the downswings, the emotional roller coaster you're going to be on as a bettor. To stick with it. And I even tested that once years ago. I tested it. I gave away an approach I was using that was making a great return on investment. And within, I think it was about 8 weeks or so, 8-10 weeks, nobody was using it anymore except for me, because it hit a downswing and no one could emotionally cope with that downswing. 6 months later, I was still using it. It was still making a profit. And that was when I started to realize that actually finding the profitable selections is actually the smaller part of the puzzle. In fact, the harder part of the puzzle is the emotional roller coaster of losing streaks and downswings and upswings. And that's what we need to get control of primarily. And it's impossible, I think, pretty impossible anyway, to do that with tips where there is no understanding of how you may be affected by that, what those losing streaks may be, and why selections have been chosen. And that's why we chose to stop giving tips in that way away. So, but I do race reviews, I do race previews, and obviously I give my selections in them, and I try to give my thinking behind it when I do those as well. Also, as strategies, all our RA Pro members, whenever we do a strategy, I do it on live racing. And again, sometimes that racing, sometimes we get it right while I'm doing the strategy and it works and we show a profit. Sometimes I have to do 2 or 3 races. So you can see actually I get losers as well. Everybody gets losers as well. Mark, again, if you've got any questions while I'm going through the questions, drop them below, please. I'm going to keep going through the questions until they are finished. Mark, glad to see you're safe and well. Thank you very much, Mark. I am indeed. I hope you are all safe and well at home. I hope you all managed to get out this weekend and enjoy a bit of the sun. I know we're in lockdown. I know getting out is hard, but hopefully you managed to actually get a little bit of the sun this weekend. James, thank you for all your help. I find your info really helps me decide my selections. Superb. I'm so pleased to hear that. Thank you very, very much for sharing that. It's always lovely to hear when what I'm doing and what we're providing here is helping you to find selections, helping you to become profitable, because actually that is all I want to do, is to help you become profitable with your betting. Jason, what angles do you look for? So as I was saying earlier, my preference is not actually to use micro angles anymore. I prefer strategies, but if I'm looking for micro angles, I would recommend when you're drilling down to put more of your focus on connections, so on trainers and jockeys primarily. You can do it with owners as well, but it's harder to find with owners. So I would put some weight on trainers and jockeys and look for patterns with those trainers and jockeys of races that they like or conditions that they like. Like some trainers are very good at buying a horse, laying it off and preparing it to come back with a bang. Some trainers bring them back under certain conditions, of course this is. Some trainers are very good. They actually warm horses in under certain conditions. And some trainers specialize. In fact, they might have a whole stable of horses, but they'll specialize in specific horses and they'll do particularly well in specific horses. And the same kind of goes for jockeys. Some jockeys prefer certain courses to other courses. They prefer working with certain trainers to other trainers, and they prefer riding certain types of horses, maybe heavier horses, lighter horses, than other types of horses as well. So those sorts of patterns is where I would be drilling down to build a portfolio of micro angles to then use as my strongest horses. Finn, tried to build a lot, but I'm suffering from backfitting as they never work when done live. Finn, you are not alone. Backfitting is the #1 killer of betting systems, because software that allows you to build betting systems are generally developed in such a way that they make backfitting the best way to do it, because they give you the history and they tell you to drill down into the history, which is not actually the right way to build a long-term profitable betting system. But they tell you to drill down into that history by, here is the result of the query that you have just made. And now look, you can drill further into that query and break it down by more factors to see which of those factors are profitable. All you're doing there is looking at what was profitable historically. You're not predicting what's going to come in the future. But as I say, you can do that, drill down all the way, find these micro angles, use them as contenders, but you're going to need a lot. And they're generally going to need a big edge as well, because these micro angles are going to have edges of, kind of 20, 30, 40, 50%, huge edges that you don't get outside of a handful of selections a year. So that is why you can't do it. There is another way to build betting systems. As I say, I will look at that in a future probably webinar. It'll be more in depth than we can do in a Facebook Live. So I'll probably do that in a future webinar if there is enough interest. Can you build the system based on historic data, but then test it live on Aldermist? Finn, you absolutely can do that. Exactly. And that is exactly the sort of thing that Aldermist is there for, because Aldermist behaves like a real racetrack. You can build your system on historic data and you can go and test it on Aldermist to see if actually it's likely to work live, because you don't know what the results are going to be. You cannot backfit on Aldermist because you do not know what the results of the race are going to be until that race is run, and you can test it rapidly. This is what makes Aldermist, which is, if you haven't heard of Aldermist yet, it's our virtual race course at the Race Advisor. It behaves like a real race course, and as far as I'm aware, it is a world first training platform to become a profitable bettor, because you can use it like a real race course. You can bet on it, and you can test your strategies with zero risk. You can test your systems with zero risk. You can learn to read form with zero risk. And I'm expecting it to accelerate the journey to profitable betting for our users by around 344%. So you can absolutely do that, Finn, definitely. Okay, Graham. Again, if you've got any questions, please drop them below, and I will come to them and I'll answer them shortly. Graham, my system was doing okay for a couple of weeks and then they pulled the racing plug. Oh, I mean, that's just sod's law, that is. But don't worry, it will come back. Graham, test it out in the meantime on Aldermist. You'll be able to get an idea of the long-term viability of it, and you'll be able to get that very, very quickly. There's a race every 10 minutes, so you'll be able to get that very, very quickly. So test that out on Aldermist Racetrack. Keep using your system, use it on Aldermist, and see how it does, over 100 races or 200 races. Ideally, you want a minimum of 100 winning bets to get an idea. So go and do that there and see if it's still stacking up once you've got 100 winning bets. And you can do that right now on Aldermist Racecourse. And I would recommend you do that, because you'll get a feel for how it's going to behave. You'll also get a feel for the ups, the downs, the journey, the losing streaks, the winning streaks, what kind of bankroll you need. You get a feel for how it's going to behave as well with your real money, so that when you start putting real money on it again, you're already in a better position to be profitable with it. Nick, why do you not focus on weight? That's a good question. There isn't actually a particular reason. You can put weight into what we've just done as well, and that could be one of the factors you put in. Weight is an interesting one. So a little kind of a tip here. When you look at weight, remember the size of a horse. Okay, so weight makes a big difference if the ground is soft and the distance is long. The firmer the ground gets, the shorter the distance gets, the less impact weight is going to have. So you can determine whether to use weight or not, possibly based on the actual race conditions, the distance, and the ground condition. And if a horse is going up a pound in weight, these are heavy animals. 1 pound is going to make no difference. However, most horses do have I say that, but and the reason what I'm about to say, I'm going to clarify. So if you're moving up a few pounds in weight, that could make a difference. But if you're moving up a few pounds in weight over a 5 furlong race, it's probably not going to impact it very much. If you're moving up 5 pounds in weight over a 4 mile Grand National race, it's probably going to make quite a difference. There's a difference. Imagine yourself running with a backpack, an empty backpack, and you put, you're running a 100-meter sprint, and you put a couple of rocks in the back, and that 100-meter sprint is probably not going to make a huge difference by the time you get to the end of that sprint. Put it in on a marathon, you're going to feel a difference with that weight, and that's kind of how you need to think of weight. And I want to clarify that because there was a comment on the YouTube video I did for the Grand National, the virtual Grand National, about the fact that Tiger Roll would be able to cope with his weight, and I didn't think he would be able to because it was actually way too much. And horses have a threshold of weight they can carry. And if you look back in their past form, again, this is where using a few minutes of your time just to look back past races. If you look back in your past form, you can often spot, if a horse has enough history, you can often spot the weight that horse is capable of carrying. And whenever it goes above it, its performance just piles down. And again, it's often very, very easy. You can got all the weights there. You've got all the results next to it. Hold on, let me just show you. I don't know if this is going to be an example, but you can see the weight here. We've got all the weights in this column. You've got all the results here. And you can actually often just scan down 9, 8, 7. Okay, and in this case, we don't know because actually the higher weights it's won at. However, if we come down here, 9.5, 9.5, it's performed horrendously. In fact, its worst races was when it was carrying 9.5 by a significant difference. I mean, we're talking 37 and 18 lengths behind the winner here. All the others we're talking, well, the worst was 12 lengths, and that was in a higher class race. So possibly we could say somewhere between 9 and 9.5, this horse may be topping out on the weight it is capable of carrying. Okay, so you can do that quite nicely and easily. Okay, like this process, great. I'm pleased. If you've got any questions on it, please do drop me a message. Night Music lost to Magical Thomas in the last race, but it was 2015. Yep, absolutely. Also, when a horse has lost to another horse in a race, don't take that as carte blanche that the horse is going to lose again in this race against it. It may well do, and obviously there is a precedent set there, so it is a lot more likely to lose against it again. But have a look at the race. Have a look at that race that it lost in, and see. Maybe there is a comment. Maybe it got blocked. Maybe it got bumped. Maybe it couldn't get a break. There are a number of reasons why the horse lost. My internet connection just dropped. I don't know what happened there. Just see if I'm back with you. Let me know if I'm back with you. I don't actually think I am. I am back with you. Excellent. Okay. Can I just have a bit of a confirmation, please, that I'm back? I mean, my internet connection just totally dropped out. Hold on a minute. I think the screen is black. Let me get a Chrome tab up again. Excellent. I think I'm back. Excellent. Messages starting to come in. I'm back. Our Wi-Fi literally just dropped there. Right. Can you? Let me hide this. Okay. Can you see my screen again? Are we back with the screen? Can you see me? Yeah, griefing. I hope it doesn't happen if I'm trading as well. I'm finding that since everyone's gone into lockdown, our internet connection is significantly worse. It is getting better, but it's definitely worse. Let me know. Can you see me, or can you just hear me? Can you see the screens again? I'm hoping now that you can see the screen. Can you see me? Hopefully you can see me and the screen just behind me, which is showing currently Avenue de Champs. I'm actually going to change that over. Ah, screens are back. Wonderful. Okay. Now let me just bring myself back to the 4 here, and let me just share screen once more. Okay, perfect. Right. So where were we? Everything's fine again. Thank you for letting me know that. Much appreciated. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody. It dropped me out. All right. There was one question here, I think, from Nick, and that was the last one. And if that is the last one, I'm going to answer that question, and then I will wrap this up. So if you've got another question, please drop it in now. Do you use pedigree analysis and the dosage index system in your form reading? Great question, Nick. So pedigree analysis and the dosage index system. For those of you who don't know what that is, pedigree analysis is looking at the sire and dam, so the mother and father of a racehorse, seeing what race conditions they were strongest in. And the theory behind it is that if the mother and father were particularly strong under certain race conditions, then that is passed on genetically to their offspring. So those horses should be better under those race conditions as well. And you can take this back a number of generations. So that's pedigree analysis, and dosage index system is a way of measuring this. It's basically a way of scoring the pedigree of the horses and the conditions that they were good in. I actually don't use pedigree analysis or the dosage index system. That doesn't mean it doesn't work for some people. I know some people who do very, very well off it. It's just not the way my brain works. However, having said that, we have had a number of requests to put pedigree and dosage into RA Pro. It is something that is on our development list, and we will add it in the future. But I don't personally use it, no. Okay, so I think that is the last question. Unless anybody has another one, I'll wait another minute or so just to see if anybody else has another one. Assuming not, thank you so much for joining me today on this Facebook Live. There'll be another Facebook Live next Monday. We're going to do these every week. It's wonderful to chat with you directly and to connect with you. If you're an RA Pro member, please register for tomorrow's training webinar. It's going to be incredible. Please do register for that, and I will see you there tomorrow evening. If you are not an RA Pro member, you are still part of the Race Advisor family. There is a huge announcement that is going to be made this week, and there is going to be a webinar about it. You get an email tomorrow with a link in that webinar. Please click on that link, register. I'm expecting it to be super, super busy because what we are going to be doing is just amazing. So if I say so myself, I'm really proud of it. You can probably tell. So please register for that. If you're not an RA Pro member, you're just part of the Race Advisor family. It is wonderful to have you as part of the family. This is for you guys as well on Thursday. put that in your diary now, 8 p.m. There'll be an email coming out tomorrow morning with more details, plus a link where you can register. It's totally free. You'll be able to register for free, but you will need to register because I'm expecting it to be oversubscribed. Thank you very much. If you missed anything in this recording, in this Facebook Live, it will stay on Facebook. I will also upload a copy of it to YouTube, so you can watch it there if you prefer to use YouTube instead of Facebook. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you very much for joining me this evening. Have a great night.